almost everything that I have is pre-owned, except the JTR stuff and the Klipsch speakers. Every one of my components are used except for the 4K player. That's new. Yeah. But I'm always looking for a deal. Yeah. Always.
I get it.
But there's always a purpose behind every purchase that I make. I don't just go out and just randomly buy. There's a lot of thought that goes into every single piece of equipment I buy, every single cable that I buy, really just everything. And it's all got to be, it's all got to add together to something better. And I'm trying to make informed decisions in order to achieve that without too many sidetracks or mistakes along the way. And I've been pretty satisfied. There's been a lot of gear come through this room in the last 2.5 years, but it has all evolved into something that is really tightening up to, again, be probably I won't say end game, but a system that I'm going to be able to enjoy for a lot of years.
Hey guys, we are here in Huntsville, Alabama with my good friend Jason. Jason and I have known each other for probably 22 years. Yeah. I was a student pastor up here in Alabama for 4 years, and during that period of time, Jason was just a huge benefit to our student ministry. So I was up here making some content with another friend of mine, Sean, on his theater, and I'm like, Jason, I gotta come by and make some time to check out your theater. You've been in this home how long?
2.5 years, in a little bit. Yeah. And the theater's been done about 1.5 years. It took me about a year to really kind of finish it out as you see it today after we moved in.
Yeah. So this is going to be a cool video. We're going to do two things. We're going to show you the theater room, but Jason, your heart really is for 2-channel audio.
It really is. We kind of agreed to say it's more like a 90-10 split, but it's, to be honest, it's more like 99, 98 to 1 or 2. Yeah. I spend almost every night in the music room listening for an hour to maybe 2 to 3 sometimes, especially on the weekends.
Sure. So we're going to, of course, we want to share the home theater, but I want to share your passion for music as well, because a lot of you guys at home love music, and maybe you don't use your full home theater setup as your 2-channel listening. Right. A lot of times people do have a 2-channel setup, but you've got a great system here as well as over there. So we're going to look at both of them. But Jason, tell us, like, how big is your room up here?
So this is, we're about 18.5 wide and about 23 front to back. Okay. And then there's an extra 2 or 3 feet behind the screen as well, as you will see in a little bit.
Sure. So we're going to talk about all the speakers, all of the components in here, and really just why you even wanted to build a home theater. Of course, we've got different styles of seating. We'll cover that as well. Okay. So let's talk about the speakers in this room. What do you have going on?
Okay, I got mostly a full complement of JTR. Love that company. I've historically been a Klipsch guy, and in the initial planning for this theater, I was going to go full Klipsch. And then I found out about JTR and bought without ever even having heard them. Okay. Because the videos that I saw and your experience with them was just so compelling that I was willing to outlay this amount of money to buy these without ever hearing them, and it's worth every penny.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you enjoy it. I've heard a bunch of JTR. I probably have filmed at least 15 to 20 JTR systems, and every one of them I've walked away going, this is what I love. Like, this is the sound I'm after. Right. And that's why we chose to reach out to Jeff and JTR. Said, Jeff, we love your speakers and your subwoofers. We'd love to be a dealer for them. Right. So we're super excited. I'm glad you chose JTR. I think they look awesome and they sound incredible. We did some demos earlier. So we're looking at the 212 RTs, right?
212 RTs, left, center, and right. And then I've got the 110 HTs as my side surrounds and rear surrounds. Now, my Atmos, because we're working with an 8-foot ceiling here, right, sure. I wish it was, that's one of the trade-offs. With the structure and roof line, I just couldn't get any more height. I would have loved to have 9 or 10 would have been probably even better. Sure. But I'm forced to work with 8. Yeah. So that's fine. So I do have clips in the ceiling. So these are CDT 5800
Cs,
I believe. Yeah, exactly. Version 2, I think.
That's what I have.
These are 8-inch in ceiling, and we just watched an Atmos demo disc, and I think they actually are doing pretty good.
100%. Yeah,
doing pretty
100%.
good.
So you're running 7 bed layer speakers.
Yep.
3 up front, 2 sides, 2 rears.
Oh, and we can't forget about the JTR.
We'll get to there. We'll get to there. So we got 4 in ceilings.
Sure.
But then, of course, I love bass. Jason loves bass. And being on the second floor, this is one thing I want to mention on camera, is, you know, in my house I have a concrete slab.
Right.
So with the concrete slab, you're not getting any reinforcement of the bass. I get plenty of tactile here. But I immediately noticed it here, like at the very beginning. And it wasn't even really loud in the room, but I felt the chairs vibrate. And that's because we're on a wood floor on the second floor of your home. And so if you're building a room, just know you're going to get some extra reinforcement from the room itself that's going to add to that tactile feel.
Absolutely.
So what are you running subwoofers in here?
So JTR as well. Actually, you helped me actually acquire these.
You see this? I'm like I'm an accomplice to all this stuff.
Exactly, yeah, part and parcel to it.
Yeah.
So I have some older JTRs. It's the predecessor to the Captivator 2400. These are the Captivator 1400s. Got these used from a guy in Florida, Michael. I gave Michael the money. He went and arranged the deal, went and picked them up, and then we drove down, my wife and I drove down, picked them up, brought them home. Yeah. And so 18-inch, of course, that's his...
That's the smallest he has, at least right now. He's working on some smaller in like a living room setup.
Awesome.
But dedicated theater room, 18-inch. So these are ported.
Yeah, and they're ported. They're behind the screen. This is all I have now. I'm thinking of maybe, I've actually I had some Rel subwoofers, 15-inch. A pair of those that I was using previously in the music room. I don't need those anymore. More about that later. And I'm thinking of probably bringing those in and integrating those as well. Maybe, maybe not.
Sure.
But I'm not sure I need them, but,
for sure.
But I might do it anyway.
Adding 2 extra subs in the rear, so they're back here in the corners. We'll show you that here. 2 Rel 15-inch subwoofers. So when that's dialed in, that'll help provide better seat-to-seat response for everybody. But you don't need more bass in this room, for sure. He's got dual 18s up here. Plenty of tactile. I mean, honestly, his whole screen is shaking.
Yeah. I may have to try to shore that up a little bit somehow. I'm not sure.
Part of that could be calibration. Yeah. So again, Jason's not, his heartbeat is for 2 channels. So he told us, he was very honest. He's like, look, I haven't done a whole lot calibration-wise. Kind of like set it up, and I've just been enjoying it. And so I think Sean's probably going to even come over here and help you dial that in and even work on his projector, make some small tweaks. But honestly, even just out of the box, sounds really good. Of course, with calibration, we can get it even better. Absolutely. Cleaner, tighter bass, more blended in so that everything's balanced. But what size screen are we looking at here?
143 inches diagonal.
So originally, you and I had some conversation that you originally wanted to go bigger, but there's some trade-offs there and some things that you weren't sure you wanted to go down that road. So
there were, and in this room, you can see that I've got sconces. We don't have them on right now, but I have sconces on the left and the right flanking the screen. I had really wanted more traditional, you know, like 3 sconces along each side, but that trade-off comes in that on this side of the room, I've got a little bit, what we call it down here in Alabama, you know, we call it a pony wall. And then you've got an angle up to the ceiling, and that's driven specifically by the roof line of the house. So I'm very much I like things symmetric. So having 3 over here and none over here didn't really do anything for me. So I switched to just having 2 sconces there on the left and right of the screen, which constrained the screen size to the 142, 143. I would have loved to have had 150, 155, 160 possibly, but these design decisions forced me to just go to the 143. But I'm pleased with it. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a great immersive experience. It's not super immersive. You know, you don't have that 60-degree viewing angle probably like I do. But still just a great, beautiful image. And we'll talk about the projector as well. But since we're up here, I want to get behind the camera because I want to show them your screen and what you've done there. All All right, Jason, show us what you've got back here. So we're going to lift this up.
So this is an adaptation of what you have in your home theater, at least for temporarily, or for the time being anyway, since you're moving shortly. But I wanted a screen that I could get behind.
Yeah.
And it turns out I get behind here more than I ever thought I would.
Correct.
So here we go.
So we just lift this up. You said this weighs about 90 pounds, correct?
Not quite, about 80.
Okay.
And then I've got
you guys just check this out
legs
right here. So these just kind of latch in here. And these are just little U-bolts?
Well, I don't know the official name for them, but you can get them on the electrical aisle really at home, at any of your, Lowe's, Home Depot kind of store.
And so let's start here. What's actually propping these up?
Okay, so this is just standard PVC pipe with an elbow and an end cap and a small piece in between.
Right.
And then just a clamp here. Because these aren't completely rigid, I used wood dowels, large wood dowels, as big as I could get in here, to help reinforce this.
Sure.
So I did this on both, and they both nest, as you may have seen already, in just these clips here that I also got at Home Depot.
A little felt or something on
and
here?
I put some felt in there, just to help just a little bit.
Sure. So typically this would have like a bolt here, and you just remove the bolt.
Remove that, and sometimes I'll push them together to give them a little bit more grab.
Sure.
Because they will expand out over time if you don't mess with them too much.
And you got a work light back here.
I got a work light back here. This is a false wall because I knew that I was going to have several feet exposed from under the screen, and I didn't want you to see just the bottom of a speaker and the bottom of two subs.
Sure.
And this is just a framed out piece, and it's
piece of wood here. Yep.
It's removable.
Okay.
Okay. And I can do this any way that I want, and I'm going to put some handles on here. I haven't done that yet, but that's on the to-do list.
Sure.
Captivator 1 here, Captivator 2 here.
Okay.
And then of course the RT212 there.
Okay. And then back here we've got
I've got some
line conditioners.
Yeah, I use Belkin line conditioners. They don't make these anymore, but I bought one a number of years ago. I liked it, and just ended up finding a bunch more. I've got 4 in this total system.
And you said you bought these super cheap, right?
Yeah, these I got each of these for less than $100.
Nice.
And they were at least in the several hundred of dollars.
Sure, brand new.
Brand new.
Okay.
And in each for these, it's hooked to the sub and the sub alone. And also, because this is a new home and I did a lot of the research leading up to and through the building process, I actually ran 2 20-amp circuits distinctly for the subs.
Okay.
So my electrical system isn't stressed at all with these guys.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I needed it, but hey, overkills is just fine too.
Sure. And then this frame, you actually built this, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so this is a silver ticket kind of box solution screen. I didn't want to go to great lengths to do a custom frame and then stretch the fabric over it.
So you just buy this, put it together.
Yeah, so it's
affordable.
Very affordable. I think this was somewhere in the $500 to $600 range.
Sure.
But it's got an aluminum frame. It's well put together. It's easy to use. And then I built essentially an identical wood frame that matches up with all the supports.
The frame on the middle. Yep.
And then I mounted that on the wood frame, and then I used 3 heavy-duty bearing-loaded hinges up here, mounted on another board that is screwed into every joist along, just again for overkill. And it's really smooth, works great. I would like to upgrade to gas shocks here soon, and I think a friend of ours is maybe going to help me with that.
Nice.
I just haven't taken the time to do it yet.
One thing at a time, but I love this is super practical, very inexpensive, and something that you guys at home, you may see some of this and go, man, I like that idea. I like being able to get behind here in case you ever upgrade or need to maintain or do something. You have an amp, if you have an amp back here that fails or something like that.
And you don't have to be a master craftsman to build this. This is all right angles, straight pieces of wood. I use pocket screws for these, which is a great way to put pieces of wood together. There's probably $40 worth of wood in this, and another 15 or 20 in the dowels and the other extraneous pieces. So it really didn't cost much to actually make this happen. The hinges, I think they were maybe 3 of them for, it was maybe $40.
Sure.
But they're really nice hinges.
Yeah.
And they operate on bearings, so they're really nice and smooth.
I think you did a great job here.
Thanks.
All right, so moving to your equipment rack, you went something a little bit different,
Right.
not your standard traditional rack, because again, we got some limitations in here on where you could place that. So I love what you've done here. It fits really well. It's out of the way so we don't see lights. So tell us what you've got here, Jason.
So, yeah, I thought about this kind of long and hard about how I wanted to do that. I didn't really want it at the front of the room. I really didn't want it in the back of the room and in the interior. So I thought, well, I have space on the other side that we're going to see here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, let's just inset this into the wall. And I get access actually outside this room
Right.
to an adjacent space as part of the under the roof of the house. And equipment-wise, I've got, I'm using Anthem Pre-Pro. This is the previous generation, AVM 60.
Okay.
Really like this unit. I'm going with a Panasonic, I forget the first part, but it's the 820.
Okay.
It's about a $450 or $500 unit.
Sure.
You can get them, on sale sometimes as well. And then amplification, I went with Rotel, which is the Japanese brand. Been around a long time.
They have, man. Even like the 90s, I remember these. They're cool.
Yeah, so these amps are several generations old, but man, they are rock solid.
Yeah.
I've got 3. One you can't see now. You'll see it later. It's it's too large to put in the rack here,
Right.
and that's what runs my left, center, right. So that's a RMB-1095. That's pushing probably into 4 ohms, which the JTRs are.
Right.
Pushing somewhere between 350 to 400 watts a channel.
So plenty of power.
Plenty of power. They don't struggle at all.
Yeah.
And then these two are RMB 1075s, 120 watts a channel into 4 ohms, and just so happens that the 110 HTs are 8 ohm.
Okay, so these are these 125 into 8 ohms or 4 ohms?
They're 120 into 8 ohms.
Okay, gotcha.
And
here's
two more of the Belkins that we've already talked about. So
Yeah.
there's 4 total in the room, 2 here and 2 there.
Sure.
And I've just got everything kind of split up. Half the stuff goes with that one, half the stuff goes with this one.
I love how clean it is, and even the silver finish right here, it just fits this room.
Well, I'm kind of not clinical, but I've got some OCD with me. I've already mentioned that I like symmetrical things.
Sure.
Also, aesthetics are a very big thing for me as well.
Sure.
So I pay attention to, it's either all black, all silver, or a combination of both if I can make it look right.
Right.
And I think this kind of works right.
Okay. And then everything's being controlled by Harmony? Elite?
Harmony, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got that. So I told Jason, I said, I think we could do some like voice control in here with your lighting, because you've got Lutron Caseta lighting.
Yeah,
Same thing I do.
Right.
And so I was sharing with him that, you can have it programmed. You can use the Alexa hub. You can use the Harmony hub. And then there's even a Lutron hub. And they all can kind of talk together. I said Alexa hub, basically like a device, like an Echo is all I use in my room.
Right.
An Echo Dot. So you talk to that.
I actually have one of those.
Yeah, so it talks.
I've got all the pieces. I actually have all the pieces to do all of these things.
Yeah.
I just haven't got to it yet because I'm in the other room.
But that's the thing. This isn't his
all
priority.
the time.
Yeah, you wanted something cool. And he was sharing earlier that his family loves to use this, probably more so than you do, and the grandkids. And so that's super cool. But it's a great space to be able to utilize for that movie time. And really, if you're watching this TV, you recommended, hey, look, we're just
Most
downstairs.
of the time we just do it downstairs in the family room.
Yeah.
I probably should do more of that up here just to use it. I have it. I should use it more.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of things in life that we buy, and but this is an incredible room. But I love what you've done here. I wanted y'all to see how this is aesthetically pleasing, very functional, And he mentioned, I love the fact that you have rear access. So when you're building a theater room, I really encourage you guys to be thinking through that. Sometimes you have a rack that pulls out and it can rotate so you can get behind it. In mine, I have a cabinet that rolls out and I can climb in behind it.
Right.
Here's a little unique. We've got an attic space back right behind here. So we'll come back to the room, but let's step outside. I want to show you guys the behind the scenes really of this rack right here.
Yeah.
All right, so right outside the theater room, Jason's got a little access panel right here. Let's go ahead and head on in.
Okay.
So this is behind the unit. Jason, you go ahead and crawl in there, show them what it's like there, buddy. So he's got a little work light in here. And as you can see, this is inside the attic, so he's got it finished. So we got carpet down here, plywood's down in place, but he's small enough, he can climb through there. You can see we've got easy access. We'll just climb in here with him. So right behind here. So we got some nice cable management there.
As best as I could without making everything custom.
Yeah.
I've got it as compact as I can kind of get it, and I tried to optimize it as best as I could.
Yeah.
But it works. It works pretty good.
So let's look at this big old beast back here. Holy cow.
Yeah, that's the 1095.
So that wouldn't fit in your rack. So that's a 5-channel. You can see he's using 3 channels.
And it weighs roughly 100 pounds. It's a hoss.
Now you said it has wheels on the bottom? Maybe?
Yeah, I think over
I don't think I've ever seen one with wheels. If it does, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So super cool, man. But this is just, again, think through this stuff when you're building out your room. So here's the rear of the cabinet. You just kind of see how it's constructed. But it just allows you to get access behind here. Because that's super frustrating when you're trying to hook up a new component, having to read the manual, reach back there and figure out where do I need to plug it in.
Right. Right.
So Jason, you've got a 143-inch projection screen.
Right.
So what did you go with on your projector?
Epson, tried and true, been around forever.
Yeah.
You previously had one. I saw it in your theater.
Yeah.
And I've said a few times today, if you think of audio/video, I'm audio, not so much the video.
Sure.
So I didn't want to spend the money to get laser projector or even the latest technology in 4K. So so this is the Epson 5060.
Okay, 6050 I think?
6050, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. A couple of reasons, again, that I mentioned. I'd seen Epson in your theater. I liked it, and it was black.
Yeah.
And I wanted black. Okay, I didn't want a white because, again, getting back to that aesthetics
matter.
Kind of mattered to me. So black was, and there's not a lot that's offered, not a ton anyway, that's offered in black. So anyway, it fit the bill, and I think it's fine. We're gonna do some tweaking to it, and get it better. But it just worked out really good. I got this actually used as well, for a really good deal. So I'm always looking for a good deal.
Deals are great when you can find those, whether it's on a open box or whether it's a used market and so forth. So,
and in fact, since we're still on equipment, almost everything that I have is pre-owned, except the JTR stuff and the clips, speakers. Every one of my components are used except for the 4K player. That's new.
Yeah.
But I'm always looking for a deal.
Yeah.
Always.
I get it.
And if you do the research, if you look into the buyer, depending on what format or platform you're buying on, the chances of you doing something bad or wrong are pretty slim if you do your research.
Yeah.
And I found that to be true over and over and over.
100%. So you mentioned something about aesthetics. Aesthetics matter.
Right.
And aesthetics matter a lot of times. Not everybody wants a black void room. And so you wanted to create a space that's warm and inviting and open. But part of that aesthetic is what we're seeing back here. This kind of, I don't know what you
call
would
it a grid wall.
Okay. So this is a grid wall. So we've got it on the left side. We got it on the rear wall. And I even noticed, and I want to tie these two together, aesthetics with acoustics. You're looking at a lot of hard surfaces in this room. There's hard ceiling, hard walls, hard left wall, hard right wall.
Yeah, no acoustic treatment whatsoever.
Correct.
In here. Yeah,
so,
at least right now.
Correct. And so you know, you may be watching this video going, oh man, that room's got to sound terrible. I was really surprised, Jason. When I walked in this room, it's relatively quiet. Now it doesn't have a noise floor of 5, like that one crazy, you know, massive home theater, but it's not crazy echoey like I thought it was going to be. So that's interesting. So this grid pattern is helping out with that. I'm assuming we got thick carpet here that's helping. You've got a blanket, thick blankets in each seat. So that's absorbing, and then you got 2 big bean bags that the grandkids love to. So you've done some things that are still visually appealing that are contributing to the acoustics. I know back here, when we were standing up against the wall, I could hear the reverb. But out here in the middle of the room where the seats are, we're not hearing that. So what you're hearing over here is different than what we're hearing in here. But tell me a little bit about this. Is this something that you built yourself, or did you hire that out?
No, when we were building the house, of course we did an extensive trim throughout the house. And while the trim guys were here, I knew I wanted something, and I finally kind of narrowed it down to this grid wall here. And so I had our trim folks actually do this for me, because I could do this, but this would take me weeks to do, and they were able to knock it out in 2 days.
So one thing, we were talking about acoustic treatment. Eventually, you might want to add some. And one thing I suggested is just get creative with it. You like aesthetics, so figure out either a pattern, or maybe you could put like a black, panel in each one of these, and then skip a row. And then maybe do a black panel
Exactly what I was thinking.
Something like that.
Make it tailored to these squares.
It would almost look like a column at that point.
It would. So yeah, that's and I'm doing a lot of this the acoustic stuff that you'll be able to see in the music room. I'm doing all that myself. And so you've already seen some of the stuff that I've done myself too with the screen. And so yeah, I've got no problem doing that myself and making that work. I got all the time in the world. So
so we don't have a lot of space here. I love, again, you've tied in the same motif here, the same style. You've got some accent lighting here, which is super cool. But you even shared with me, you're even toying with the idea, maybe I put like, I guess, a half bar here.
Yeah, actually really
put some bar stools back here.
I think I'll get a piece of quartz or something like that to go in here. And then get bar stools, and I think I can get maybe. I mean, I could I could
do
pack
4
them,
or 5.
Yeah, I could pack them in here. I don't know that I want to pack them in too tight, but 4 to 5 probably quite easy.
But that's
which would add that many more spaces, because we got 7 seats. We got the bean bags. They're big enough for 2 adults, but most adults aren't going to want to be there. Those are mostly for the grandkids. And so, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 comfortably now, especially if it's not all adults. But adding another 4 or 5, or maybe even 6, that ups the capacity quite good. And I think that would help with bigger gatherings and things of that nature.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of seating, how about let's go sit down in these cool seats?
Sure.
All right, Jason, so seating is a super important part of any home theater space, whether you go with dedicated theater seating or a couch or bean bags. And so you went with something, a brand that we don't hear often, so tell us about that.
Yeah, so I did a good bit of research in there. I know you like Valencia. I looked at that. But, sometimes when I'm doing research on something I want to buy, for some reason, Seatcraft, I just found it, and I just fell in love with it, I guess, in a way. And so I really just stopped my looking there. And, of course, they make a lot of different seats, but this one's called the Diamante. And I just liked everything about it. It's got, power recline, power headrest, got the blue LEDs. And, I looked at other things too, but I just always came back to these. And so got these on a good deal, right? I had originally thought about doing black, but these are a gray kind of taupey. They essentially match the walls almost perfectly. I did not know that.
And that's pretty cool.
It
didn't
turns
plan that?
out, not really. You can actually order like samples of the leather. But I went ahead and pulled the trigger on them before I actually got the sample.
Okay.
But after I got the sample and I put it up against the wall and it almost disappeared,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Nice.
This was a good decision. This color at the time that I chose to buy them was having a pretty good sale. So I think I got these 30% off, maybe even a little more off of retail.
Okay.
So, I think I've got maybe 4,400
in all 7.
In all 7.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, quite happy and very comfortable. Everybody has loved them that has sat in them so far.
Yeah. So just like I said, it's just very smooth leather, beautiful comfortability. We've got accessibility here.
Yeah, got the.
Now I'm being nosy because I didn't even tell him I'm going to look at that. So cool.
That's
so we
okay. We have those
tray tables here. There's probably other accessories they sell as well.
They sell, but
popcorn bowls and all kinds of stuff.
That's the first time that's ever been used.
Okay. Well, I just put the first fingerprints on it. But this is different again because this is like a high gloss.
Yeah.
Versus some of the other ones.
Yeah, maybe
so cool.
if I was maybe doing that, it probably is more practical to have more of a matte finish on it. But
yeah, it's definitely going to pick up a lot of fingerprints.
Because there's fingerprints all over it now.
And nobody's ever... He's blaming it on me.
But that's okay.
We'll stick it back in here and nobody will
I'll
ever
clean
use
it after you leave.
I love it. Now, Jason, you've had your home theater built for about 1.5 years, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So let's walk back. If you and I were talking about the possibility down the road, several years, you might build another home.
Yeah, maybe. So I would be willing to do that. I love building houses.
Jason has like this thing. That's fun, learning
Absolutely.
and planning, and your home is beautiful.
Thank you.
And they have done a great job at making sure that every space is utilized. As you saw how he got really creative, being able to access behind the equipment through the attic and enclosing that space. So if you were to build another home theater, is there anything that you would change, or there's some lessons learned from this one that maybe somebody watching this video could learn from?
There's a few. If we ever built another house, this is on the second floor, as you mentioned earlier, we would probably have a basement at our next one, and I'd probably move something like this down into a basement space. Got a little bit more control over what that is. I'm dictated by my roof line here in this particular room. That was a little bit of a trade-off. We're actually over our garage, so as far as sound throughout the rest of the house, not much at all, because
it's kind of on the other side of the house.
We're on the other side of the house, so we can be cranking it in here pretty good. Yeah. And people downstairs really aren't hearing anything.
Sure.
So that's kind of a plus. That was a trade-off, right?
Right.
Me placing it here.
Sure.
I could have put it where the music room is, and I would have had 4 straight walls.
I see. That makes sense.
But I knew this would be louder, so putting it over the garage was the smart thing to do.
Sure. So what are some things that you would do differently on this new home?
Okay.
Maybe some lessons learned.
Well, so some lessons learned. We've already talked about the 2 18-inch JTR captivators that I've got, but I've just stopped using the rail 15-inch in my music room because I don't need them anymore because I've got a full range set of speakers now.
Right.
So I actually have them in here, and you may see them in some of the B-roll, but I don't have them hooked up yet. What I'd planned to do is just run RCA cables or cable up through conduit that I have in the walls, and everything is running through conduit.
Okay, so conduit's just PVC pipe?
PVC pipe, but I didn't necessarily size that. I know now that I could have sized it better. Of course, I've got 2x4 walls, so I actually have a decent amount of space, but I went with a fairly small, I think maybe a 1-inch PVC.
Okay.
I could have easily got away with a 2-inch. Okay. And they're on the far ends of the room, and that's where the ceiling starts to go up.
Right.
So access to those was going to be a problem. So they don't just run straight up and then it's open.
Correct.
They actually have a 90-degree elbow and then another couple of feet, so I could actually easily get access to it. Well, I had forgotten that I had done that.
Yeah.
So when I got my RCA cable, I started running it up from this side. everything was going great
Right.
till I got to the
90.
to the 90, and then it wasn't. And then I went up in the attic,
Sure.
saw what was happening. I'm like, okay, this is a no-go. So if I want to incorporate the 215s, I'm going to have to go with one of Rail's wireless system,
Wireless, yeah.
which is fine. Which is fine, and I'm probably going to do that.
So a couple lessons there that hopefully will be helpful to you if you're building a home theater or even renovating an area and adding your own drywall and everything is put in conduit.
Conduit is great.
Some people use what they call Smurf tubing.
Okay.
It's like a plastic tubing. You can look that up online, or PVC pipe.
Yeah.
But you have to think through, all right, what size wires am I going to be feeding through there?
Yeah. And I'm using big wires. I'm using 12 gauge
Okay.
auction-free copper, so it's it's pretty sizable.
So here's the other thing. 12 gauge copper doesn't bend very easy. So trying to go
That's
up
true,
and
too.
then make a direct 90,
Yeah.
that's tough. So maybe you could have used maybe two 45-degree angles,
Yeah.
I guess. Splice those together so that has a
I
little
could
bit
have done
more
it
of
a little
arc.
bit different, but
Or bigger tubing.
I just didn't foresee adding the two subs in the
Sure.
back.
Sure.
Again, a wireless system will take care of that.
Correct. But there's some trade-offs there,
there
too.
is some trade-offs.
Sometimes there's some
Always.
wonkiness.
Always.
I've seen home networks, wireless networks, Wi-Fi networks that will sometimes conflict with those.
Right.
So sometimes you run into some issues. But again, thinking through your home theater and the decisions that you make in that, one thing that I always encourage you guys to do is, even though maybe you're thinking, all right, right now I'll never need more than 2 subwoofers. If you can, go ahead and wire for 4.
Yeah.
Maybe
actually.
you're thinking, I'm only ever going to use 2 Atmos speakers, or I'm never going to use Atmos.
Right.
Run the wires.
Right.
Speaker wire is so cheap. What is more expensive and a whole lot more time consuming is once you frame the room in 2 years down the road, you're like, you know what? I went over to somebody's house. I went over to Michael's house and I heard his Atmos system and I'm going, man, I want that at my house. Now you got to kind of dig through some wires
Yeah.
or fish. And that's a pain.
So
thinking through that, having that foresight and thinking ahead of maybe I would someday down the road upgrade. I'd rather you wire more than what you have now.
Absolutely.
In anticipation for what you might do in the future.
Absolutely. And when you left a few minutes ago to go do something, we were talking and I don't even want to know the number of hours that I have spent researching, planning, and I changed my mind several times throughout the process of designing the theater, but we've hit on a pretty good solution.
Yeah.
A pretty good solution.
Well, this is an amazing space. We talked a little bit about the carpet off camera. You went with a very plush carpet.
Right. Right.
It's easy to want to cut corners and get carpet that's just real thin. The thicker it is, the more acoustic it's going. And I think that's
Absolutely.
really helping in this room as well.
I totally agree.
But also, we're walking in your home in socks, and when you step in this room, it's different than stepping on hardwood.
Yeah, it really
It's just got
is.
this nice, this is home, this is cushy, this is just very comfortable.
Right.
And you've created a very comfortable space for the friends and family to enjoy.
Right. Totally agree. Let's see.
And if you don't think anything, that literally can be a cut.
Yeah. I'm drawing a blank right now on if there was anything else we talked about.
Harley called.
Oh.
That is silenced.
Yeah,
That's all
fine.
good.
I never get phone calls. That's
That's
I've
funny.
got 2 phone calls today. I never get phone
Just
calls.
let you know who it was, though.
Okay.
That's funny.
Thank you.
In case it was an emergency.
Let's see. Oh, okay. Are we still going?
It's still rolling.
Okay.
Who just cut out the stuff
Yep.
we don't need.
Oh, so one other thing that I think I would maybe rethink, because when I was designing it, I wasn't sure exactly where my surrounds were going to go.
Okay.
On the wall, I changed my mind several times on that, and the way I wired them, the wire comes out of the wall, out of an outlet basically,
Okay.
and then but they're not perfectly lined up with the speakers.
Yeah.
That gets to the aesthetics, so that bothers me a little bit.
Sure.
I also probably, if I would have known exactly where they're going to go, I would have actually put the exit point right behind the speaker and had that speaker wire disappear.
Sure.
So I made it the best that I could
Sure.
make it. I've got nylon braiding on there at black, and so it doesn't look bad, but I would have done that different.
Yeah, and so that's a good tip too. And again, that all comes back to planning, figuring out where you want it, how are you going to run your wires, where are you going to put your electrical. I see you got a lot of electrical outlets, so that adds functionality to your room. One other thing, speaking of electrical, I like how in my room we have electrical in the riser. Mm-hmm. And so you see the cords. I mean, it's dark back there, but you do see the cords if you look down. With yours, you chose to put electrical outlets underneath where you knew your seats were going to go.
Yes, that I did know.
That's super cool.
Yeah, so it's a flush mount. It's got, I think, I've got 4 outlets in each one. Mm-hmm. Works out great. And the box is fairly large.
Yeah.
But it worked out. It took me a while to actually find that box that we actually used. Mm-hmm. But yeah, very pleased with that selection.
Well, your room is, like I said, I love the aesthetics of it. It sounds amazing. Again, we can dial it in even more with calibration and such. But I'd love to step into your 2-channel room because this is a really, really cool setup, and I know that's where your heartbeat is.
You know it. Michael, we're in the 2-channel room now. So this is a couple of doors down from the theater that we just left. I think the first thing we talked about was the size of the room, so we'll do the same here. So this one's about 17 wide and about 20 deep, with again 8-foot ceilings as well.
Right.
Now, would have loved to have 9, would have loved to have 10, but the roof line just dictated 8-foot ceilings. But it's working out just fine.
So Jason, this is a different type of speaker. Let's walk through the speakers. We're going to talk about the components, the acoustic treatment, plans in this room, and just really, you got some crazy Youthman deals on this stuff too. So I always like hearing when people get great deals.
Right. So we'll start with the speakers. These are from a company called Spacial Audio Labs, and these are the M3 Sapphires. And what I mean by open baffle is this is not a box speaker. They are actually open in the back, both the woofers and the tweeter as well. Completely open, and they sound different than pretty much anything you've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I don't want to typecast necessarily a box speaker, but after you've heard box speakers all your life and you hear an open baffle, kind of change your life in a way.
You kind of fell in love because you had, what, Cornwalls in here?
I had Klipsch Cornwall 4s in here, which is a great speaker.
Sure.
Actually, those are in my basement on a pallet now, about to head to Colorado.
Right, found a new buyer.
Found a new buyer for those, but absolutely love these speakers. And so I've built kind of everything else around these speakers, actually. I've got one piece that's not here today that is a custom piece that's being made, and it's probably a week or two from arriving, but it's hand built, hand wired, preamplifier, tube based, and that's also from Spacial Audio Labs.
Okay.
And so really anxious to get that piece in here. But right now I'm just using an SPL Volume 2 passive preamplifier. This is a German brand, really great, and it has served me well for the last 6 or 7 months while I've been waiting on the tube preamplifier that I'm getting here shortly.
The 2 preamp is probably going to warm it up a little bit, maybe?
It's going to warm it up a little bit, but still retain the detail retrieval that I love.
Okay.
I've always said that, because a lot of times you can't get both. People like detail, they like warmth. Well, I like both.
Okay.
And I have made purchases, returns, sales, purchase something else over the last 2.5 years.
Sure.
To kind of get me to where I'm at today.
Finding that sound signature that you like.
Finding that sound signature that I really like, and it's taken me several moves to do that, but every time I either learned from what I did, or I learned, but I learned something new, or I learned something that I liked, or something that I didn't like.
Okay.
And so it's been this building progression over the last 2.5 years, and I'm approaching what I'm hoping is what we call an in-game system.
Right, yeah.
But that's somewhat of a fallacy
Sure.
because you end up getting the bug to do something else.
Right.
But I'm hoping that I can lock this system down for quite some time.
But I think what you're saying on your in-game system is something that you're not longing for something else. Like you don't feel
Exactly.
like I'm missing this. If I only had that, it'd really make my system complete.
Right. And that's not why I've been doing what I've been doing over the last 2.5 years of buying this, buying that, because I bought a lot of stuff and got rid of a lot of stuff. It's been that finding the sound that I wanted, and I'm really approaching it. And I think this last piece is really going to kind of lock it in.
All right.
So I'm really anxious about that. Amplification is from Coda Technologies. It's a brand that's been around. It's a California-based brand. If anybody knows Pass Labs, the folks that run Pass and the guys that run Coda actually worked together in the 60s and 70s. And this is just another company. It's a low-key company. They don't advertise, but man, they make great gear.
That's a massive heat sinks over there. Look at this.
This is
like 4 fingers wide.
This is only 40 watts a channel, pure Class A.
Okay.
And just sounds really phenomenal.
It's a beautiful piece too. Really like just even the aesthetics here. It's just stylish.
The combination of the silver and the black.
Sure.
As you notice, I've got mostly silver. We've talked about aesthetics already.
Right.
I would love to have a silver DAC, which is this piece here.
Okay.
From Hollow Audio.
All right.
This is the Spring 3 KTE version. I really like it. I wish it was silver, but that's okay. I'm making an exception here. And then above that is my digital front end. This is from Inuos. This is their Pulsar streamer. Really, this has only been in the system for about a week now.
Okay.
Really like it. I've made several other streamer purchases, returned every single one of them. One of the reasons, well, the primary reason that this is probably my 4th one I have. I started with a Blue Sound Node.
Right.
I upgraded the power supply on it, made probably a 20% improvement over it in original factory state.
Okay.
So I like that. I'm using that in a headphone system now.
Right.
And but I've made 3 other choices of streamers, and they all technically sounded better than the Blue Sound. But with a streaming capability, you usually have an app from that company, and you access and play all of your music from that app.
Right.
Well, I won't mention the names of these brands, but their apps were not great, let's just say. And I always went back to the Blue Sound. So I chose not as good a sound for a more user-friendly product.
I get it.
And to me,
totally get it.
That's with streaming, that's especially handy. You've got to be able to use it, and you got to enjoy using it.
Sure, it's got to be a fun experience, or you're not going to use it.
Or you're not going to use it. Inuos has done a great job with their Sense app.
Okay.
And it's very much like the Blue Sound app. I mean, they operate very similarly, and the learning curve is almost 0.
Okay.
So that's been great. This is I'm really only a week into this, but again, really loving it. So I think this is definitely going to be here for a long time.
Yeah.
It's always helpful to go with larger power cables, so I've done that. I've kind of dabbled with some more expensive things and some more reasonable. I've kind of settled on somewhere in between.
Okay.
And then I only have one source, which is the streaming, and I use a USB connection for that, and then my speaker wire. And both of those are from a company called Anti-Cable.
All right.
And these are the 4.2 flex cables. This is actually something new from this company. It's very stiff, but very pliable, so I can get the shape that I want. The cable elevators, or whatever you want to call those things,
risers. Yeah, let's talk about that, Jason.
I built those
I know my
myself.
audience is going to want to know.
Yeah, I built those myself. Now, there's a lot of talk about those.
Right.
Do they make a difference? I don't know. But I'd rather have them above the floor in a very aesthetically pleasing way than
They
just
look super cool.
laying on the floor. So that's the reason I've done that. But I built them all myself, so I'm really out $0 on that. So no harm, no foul there. Okay, let's talk about good deals.
I like good deals.
I like good deals. We refer to it in the theater room now, but everything that I have here that we've seen, I have actually bought pre-owned.
Okay.
And this is some pretty expensive gear.
Sure.
But you know, I found a great deal on the amp. It literally had probably 10 hours on it, and I got a pretty significant deal on that.
Okay. So retail, what does this run?
Retail,
You say
probably
7?
Shy of 7, 6,600 I think
Okay.
is that. But I got a good deal on that. The hollow audio, that's about a $3,300 piece. I got a pretty significant deal on that. Same way with the Nuesis. I don't know how many hours are on it, but the thing looks brand new.
Okay.
And so I got a significant, that's about an $8,000 piece.
Sure.
I got a significant deal on that. And this is roughly $1,000 piece, and I got it for a few hundred. Well, I think it's roughly $1,000, but I got
Couple hundred bucks.
I got it for a couple $100.
Right.
Interesting story on my open baffle speakers. I got this from a guy in South Carolina, so I had to drive 5.5, almost 6 hours to go get them one weekend.
Right.
But these are the exact speakers that there's an online review of these speakers, and I can't think of the name of it right off the top of my head. But anyway, these are the actual speakers from that review that's online.
Okay.
The guy I bought them from purchased them from the reviewer.
Right.
And then I turned around years later and bought them from so I'm second owner.
Right.
And again, gosh, I love these things. These things are so good. The only thing that's new is the new preamplifier that I'm buying.
That you ordered.
And
that's a 3-month process, I think.
It's turning into more than that. I think it's going to be like 4 months.
Okay. And what is that?
Again,
that you
Spatial
ordered?
Audio Labs. Okay. Again, same maker as the speakers. It's called the Raven.
Right.
They hired essentially 2 very experienced designers of solid state equipment, and tube equipment. And together they essentially came up with what is they're selling as the Raven preamplifier.
Right.
And can't wait to get that in the system. Okay, let's talk about some acoustic treatment. As we've already established, I don't have any in the home theater room, at least yet anyway.
Right.
But
they're all in here.
usually in a music room, you actually have a good bit of it. Yeah. So I've kind of went down that road. I do like to build things, so all these panels that you are going to see are panels that I've built myself, covered them in fabric. And they're not on the wall. Normally you see them on the wall, but this room is actually in somewhat of a transitionary phase.
Sure.
I'm going to paint this room, or have this room painted, and I'm going with a lot more masculine kind of look. It's going to be like a charcoal gray.
All right.
Actually, Sherwin-Williams iron ore is what I'm going with. That's
nice.
That's a popular color. It's near black, but not quite. Ceiling, trim, everything.
Right.
Think of they call it dark academia sometimes. It's kind of whiskey room, cigar room. I'm going to replace this couch with a leather Chesterfield type couch.
All right.
Some other barrel seating, probably velvet. So going to go with some different textures and some different materials. And so this is going to have, in the next few weeks, this thing's going to look completely different.
Okay.
The acoustic treatment will go on the wall as it should once that takes place. You see 2 pieces.
Yeah, you got a couple of different kinds here.
Yeah.
It's more like the egg crate.
Yeah, so this is the first thing I ever bought, was this 2-inch thick egg crate type foam. They're 52 by 52. I went in with a friend who also has a music room, and he covered his whole room in them. Okay. And I got a couple of them off of him. So what I'm going to do with them is actually I'm going to make ceiling clouds with them. So I'm going to have a cloud here on the ceiling.
Okay.
About where first reflection point is.
So you got a big, massive ceiling. It's pretty low. It's not super high. 8 foot, maybe?
8 feet.
Okay.
8 feet. I wish it was more, but hey, that's one of those trade-offs that you got to make.
100%.
So I'll have a cloud up here. We'll see how that goes. I have it. I want to use it. I paid for it. I want to use it.
Yeah, sure.
And I may build some more panels. But one of the cool things about the open baffle speakers, you don't have to worry as much about first reflection points, and that would be ceiling, floor, and of course on the sides.
Okay.
But one of the things that I'm going to do next, and typically you see with open baffle speakers, is you want a quadratic diffuser behind them.
Behind it,
So
up against this wall up here?
Yeah, so I'm about to build a large quadratic diffuser that'll be just about 4.5 feet wide, probably about 6 to 7 feet tall. I'll have one of those behind each speaker.
Okay.
So that's the next thing on the do-it-yourself build list. And then actually on the back wall, I've got 3 bookcases that's got various things on it. It's there to put stuff on, but it also acts as somewhat of a diffuser itself.
Correct.
And I've got a bunch of albums. Now I'm not doing vinyl anymore, but I've got a bunch of vinyl that I've bought, that I've been given, and so actually I'm going to display that a little bit differently, where they're actually going to be standing up vertically,
Right.
and that'll actually give me a little more diffusion than them just sitting there the way that they are right now.
Sure. And
So this room is really going to be almost wall-to-wall acoustic treatment of some sort. Now, do I need all that? Not really sure. I'm going to have it.
Right.
I'm going to do it.
Try it.
And I'm going to try it.
Yep.
If it doesn't work, then it's decoration.
Sure.
Okay.
And I love your philosophy. I mean, there's certain things like, the cable riser. I said, all right, Jason, I'm going to ask you the tough question in the video. Like, what do you really think about it? Because I know I have my opinion on that.
Sure.
I personally don't think they changed the sound signature of your thing. And you're like, I made them. It was cheap. It looks really cool. These cables are thick and they're kind of bendable. So
Right.
when we look at this, you see this natural like curve right here that you've made, and it just flows. It looks really cool.
And again, that gets back to the aesthetics.
Yeah.
That
matters to you.
That really does matter to me.
Yeah, and you've got some really nice cables back here, so that's highly, topical there. Do cables matter? You're like, well, maybe they do, maybe they don't.
I think they do.
Yeah.
And I'm going down that road, but I'm only going to go down that road so far.
Sure.
And I think I'm kind of at a stopping point there, at least for now.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with what I've got. I can tell the difference when I do switch out some things.
Okay.
And again, over these last 2.5 years that I've been in this room, a year more than I've been in the theater.
Right.
All these changes have made a difference.
Sure.
Whether it's a percent change or
Okay.
a 2% change or a
Right.
10% change, all of those things added up cumulatively
Sure.
make a difference.
To make a great sound.
And I think that's really the takeaway is little things do count when added all together.
Gotcha.
Okay, so let's we're in the back of the room now, and let's look at this bookcase that we kind of panned to before. But I've got a headphone system here, and also a little display piece, if you will. I really like the Luxman brand, which is a Japanese brand, been around forever.
Okay.
And the piece that you're looking at now is an R1040, and I believe this guy was built in 1978.
Oh, wow.
It's an AM/FM stereo receiver, works to this day, and it sounds phenomenal. It really does. Below it is a newer generation Luxman. This is a 550, and this is a pure Class A integrated amplifier. This was in the main system, but when I went separates with the separate preamplifier and the separate power amplifier that you see now, this goes backwards and relegated to my headphone system.
Okay.
So this is a fantastic headphone amplifier.
Right.
Again, room in transition, so it's not plugged up or anything now. But,
Okay.
But with this, I've mated the Blue Sound node that we talked about earlier because as part of that, kind of good deal thing, I like to hand other components down. I don't always sell everything that I'm finished with. A lot of times I've got a secondary purpose for it.
Okay, maybe another room or something. So this is now,
another room or in this purpose. This, my Blue Sound node is now the streamer for my headphone system.
Right.
Okay. I have a separate power supply for that guy, which made a huge difference. If you've got a Blue Sound node, having an external power supply will make a difference, probably on the order of 20 to 25%.
Wow, that's
better
significant.
Quality. It really is. Power supplies. I'm a big believer in power supplies.
Okay.
Below it is a Denafrips Aries 2. Now, a lot of people that are into two-channel audio will know what a Denafrips Aries 2 is. This is only 4 or 5 years old at this point, maybe not even that old.
Okay.
But this is like a gateway drug to digital analog converters, especially if you're into R2R DACs, which is resistor to resistor DACs. This is what will get you going on a journey where you'll spend more money than you've ever thought of spending before on a DAC. I'm still on that journey, but I'm happy. I'm happy for the moment. But that is the gateway drug to DACs.
Right.
So again, this is the headphone system. Haven't actually got this thing fired up yet. I'm not a huge headphone guy, but since I've got the equipment, buying a couple of pairs of headphones, not a huge deal. These are some Sennheiser 600 series that I got from Drop.
Okay. So now what is Drop? Explain that to folks that don't really know.
It's an online company. They used to be called Mass Drop, and they sell electronics and all kinds of things. And they do partnerships with companies, and they modify, products. A lot of times it's just different colorways. Sometimes they actually modify the electronics and things of that nature. But a lot of times it's just to do something a little different, almost like an enthusiast kind of thing. And the Sennheiser HD 600 series is a very popular. Probably anybody that's into headphones owns a pair of Sennheiser 600s of some flavor. These are labeled the 6XX because I think it takes from a little bit of everything. But just a really nice, fairly inexpensive set of headphones. You can spend lots of money on headphones. That's not a direction that I'm headed right now. But I want a few nice little pieces. I got a few others that I'm thinking about buying as well. But that rounds out my headphone system that'll be up and operational here very soon.
All right, Jason, I appreciate you sharing with us your amazing home theater, this cool 2-channel setup. I love when I'm able to interview people that are just passionate. To me, that's what this hobby is all about. It's about finding a place in your home, whether it's a spare bedroom, whether it's a dedicated theater room, whether it's a garage that's converted to a space. Find a place that you can come and enjoy music, movies, and share that with friends and family. Now, you like to come in here and this is your getaway place, right?
It is. It really is. As an introvert, this is my place where I recharge. And I think I maybe mentioned earlier that, I'm in here almost every night. Anywhere from an hour to maybe several hours. On the weekends, even more. But it really does. This is what really recharges my batteries, and I just have a love and a passion for music. I always have. I actually had a first cousin that got me into music probably when I was 6 or 7 years old, and started. And even my parents. It started with Elvis, and and then some people may find this funny. I went from Elvis to Kiss.
Okay, that's a big difference.
And kind of a big difference there, but fascinated with Kiss, and big fan of them all throughout my growing up years. So much so that I missed bands like Led Zeppelin and others of that same kind of time frame that I completely missed because I was so obsessed with Kiss. And anyway, just the musical journey. I just always loved music and could listen literally hours and hours and hours every day. If I'd love to get paid.
Right, yeah.
That'd be great.
Maybe down the road you could figure out a way to do that.
Sometimes getting paid for something turns it into a job rather than something you enjoy. So anyway, I love listening to music.
Yeah. Well, this is by far one of my most favorite aspects of what I get to do, to be able to come and share with you guys different home theaters, and in this case, a different 2-channel setup, different speakers, different configurations, and just share the story of why and where that passion comes from, as well as the gear. We all love the gear.
Right.
The gear is just part of the equation, though.
It is.
You know, the relationships is what matters. The story is what matters. The pursuit of great gear that fits your needs and your desires, and that sound signature that you're looking for, whether it's in a 2-channel setup or a home theater, that journey is what I love and what I'm passionate about.
And one aspect of that, you know, some people in the 2-channel world they love measurements.
Okay.
They love specifications.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I rarely look at that. I've got enough experience now that I can almost kind of look at something and kind of know. Speakers in particular, you kind of know. You kind of got to get a feel about what the frequency response would probably be and things of that nature. But yeah, I love the pursuit of the gear, but there's always a purpose behind every purchase that I make.
Yeah.
I don't just go out and just randomly buy.
Right.
There's a lot of thought that goes into every single piece of equipment I buy, every single cable that I buy, really just everything. And it's all got to be, it's all got to add together to something better.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make informed decisions in order to achieve that without too many sidetracks or mistakes along the way. And I've been pretty satisfied. There's been a lot of gear come through this room in the last 2.5 years.
Sure.
But it has all evolved into something that is really tightening up to, again, be probably I won't say end game, but a system that I'm going to be able to enjoy for a lot of years.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video here in Jason's home. I appreciate you opening up your beautiful home to share with my audience. And so, guys, I'll leave links down in the description to maybe some of the products, or at least a description of the products that we had talked about in case they're interested in some of those things. But share with me what you've got in your home. Maybe you've got a cool 2-channel setup. Maybe something resonated in this video with you. Maybe you got an idea that you didn't consider for your home theater. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Well, guys, I hope you have an incredible week. God bless, and we'll catch you in the next video. Cool, man. That was easy. See, you make it easy.
Awesome. That was fun.
Good, man.